أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. We were discussing Quran as the foundation of Islam, and for the past 2 weeks we talked about some example verses. And inshallah, this week we will conclude this part of Quran's definition with this verse and maybe with one more. So this is a verse from Surah Al-Isra, 17th chapter, verse 15. مَنِ اهْتَدَى فَإِنَّمَا يَهْتَدِي لِنَفْسِهِ وَمَنْ ضَلَّ فَإِنَّمَا يَضِلُّ عَلَيْهَا. Whoever chooses to be guided, it's only for their own good, and whoever chooses to stray, it is only to their own loss. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةُ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. No soul will bear another's burden. وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. And we would never punish a people until we have sent a messenger. So there are 3 pieces or 3 chunks of statements in this verse. And let's try to read this, try to understand this in terms of reading Quran as a guidance. So what is guidance in each of these 3 parts of statements? Let's start with the first one. مَنِ اهْتَدَى فَإِنَّمَا يَهْتَدِي لِنَفْسِهِ وَمَنْ ضَلَّ فَإِنَّمَا يَضِلُّ عَلَيْهَا. Whoever chooses to be guided, it is only for their own good, and whoever chooses to stray, it's only to their own loss. What do you think? What guidance we find here? What does this signify? There are also other verses in Quran which reads as if God wills, He guides them. If He does not, then nobody can save them. So what do we understand? What is your take from this verse as guidance?
I feel like this one, there is like choice being given at the very minimum. So whoever chooses to be guided for their own good, which means that I was ultimately given a choice to be guided. At least that's what it feels like. But then what I was thinking about is how we talked about if we simply observe the world and how the world is functioning, it's quite impossible to not come to the conclusion that there has to be one owner just because all the signs are there. So I have to try really hard to find faults in whatever I'm looking at to not see the signs that are in front of me. So maybe I choose to not be guided, and I choose a lifestyle that I think I would live, even if the message is right in front of me. And even in thinking of like with my own example, you're in academia, and maybe I choose to continue to do my lab and to get maybe because I think it's going to give me a better career or whatever, instead of being reminded maybe of maybe like being in a space where that it reminds me maybe like this isn't everything, like that there is an end to this also, or something that can help me better understand how do I read what's in front of me. So I do think the effort part maybe is how
Okay. But there's this big emphasis of so whomever is guided or chooses to be guided is guided for their own good. So this also, let's consider with the other type of verses in Quran, which mentions that if God wills, He guides people. If He wills not, then nobody can save them. So how can we reconcile this way of presentation in Quran, as it says, whomever deviates or whomever is guided. So how can we see it in our lives? Because this is a guidance for us. So how do I feel like? Do I find guidance by myself, or do I, like, when does God choose to misguide me? Let's put it this way. Or how do I choose guidance? So where does guidance come from? What is my role in here? Because we sit before Qur'an to get guidance, to receive guidance. And this is such a verse. And then the verse says, whomever is guided or chooses to be guided, this is for their own good, and deviates, this is against themselves. What's my role in this picture? In terms of finding guidance, my role in this existence is to ask. But is my asking creating the guidance itself? Is a separate question. Like, for instance, if I say, oh, Birkan, can you give me like $200,000? I'm going to buy a house. If I ask and he gives, then it's for my own benefit. If I do not ask, then there's no way I will receive this much of money. And if Birkan says, if I say, what is the share of me buying the house, me asking in the buying of the house, it was just asking. Still, the thing that bought the house was the money given by Birkan. So the guidance came from my creator. The only thing I did is asking when it comes to finding the guidance, receiving the guidance. But the question is, my role in here is to ask for receiving the guidance.
Is this from the first definition, or just like whatever you choose to be that one in the example you just gave, or
yeah, it's actually reconciling the two. Because in the other one, when the creator says, if he doesn't guide you, then you cannot find guidance, which is true. Like, I ask, and with him giving, I find the guidance. But in the first place, he, in practice, this is how it is actually. We see it in our life. Let's say, if I want to walk, the creator says, put your will, request, and then I'm going to create walking. So if my creator doesn't will me to walk, I wouldn't walk. But how do I walk? I ask from him, and he creates walking for me. So responsibility is on my shoulders when it comes to asking for guidance. And if I do not ask for guidance, then I'm not going to be given. And when it comes to the second part, وَمَنْ ضَلَّ فَإِنَّمَا يَضِلُّ عَلَيْهَا, and whomever deviates, then it's a deviation against me. So the second part of the verse then is finding guidance or deviating is again for yourself. It's not like I am harming anybody beyond myself with my disbelief in this case. And so as an example for dhalla, like deviation, what comes to your mind? Like, how come if I deviate, it's going to harm me? Let's talk about this with a practical example. What sort of deviation we are talking about here? And it's being contrasted with guidance. So this dhalla is the same dhalla in wala. So we are trying to avoid, or we are asking so that we are not going to be among those that deviates. What does it mean to deviate? And how does it become against me? Or it's becoming my own loss? So it's something that's going to be my own loss. Alayha in there means it's against them. Any example of a deviation that you can think of? No. MashaAllah, they are rightly guided people. No misguidance in their lives, no deviation.
There's, I was just thinking, honestly, what the example would be, and the example I had in mind made sense. Because I wasn't thinking that big, I was just thinking of like an example of, for example, the Friday Holidays, right? Like I go there, I listen, and I learn something, and the more I feel better about how I'm praying. I'm catching myself a little bit faster if I feel like I'm doing something wrong. So the way I'm practicing, I think, is very active, I would say, rather than maybe like passive. I'm paying attention to how I'm speaking, like I'm paying more attention to my prayer. But then the more I don't attend, the more I also go back to the habit that I'm most used to. So I also think about, because you're supplicating, ultimately, you can, it's for my own good. So whoever, if I want for me to be guided because of that supplication, it's for my own good. Then I feel better about my day to day. I'm able to recognize things in a way that I usually maybe don't. And then in the same token, if I choose a different path, it's also my own loss. It's nobody else's. So I guess like that's how I, without the example I was thinking in my head, and I don't know if it's quite.
Well, that's a good example. That's a good example. How about some sort of a deviation, let's say, in your career? What could be a balal and also guidance in your career? Because you feel like, I mean, in general, we think that the path to success in our career, and actually, we need to be successful in our careers, number one. This is our goal. Let's see if this is, for example, a deviation or a guidance in itself. So why do I need to be successful in my career? Because it could be because I enjoy doing science. I don't know. Or because I want to be a valuable person within society. Or because I want to earn money. Maybe still not, because there are better ways of earning money than doing science. But more so, it looks like I want to be like smart, valuable, and whatnot. So is this a correct path? Like, is this a correct way to look at how I do a good portion of my life? Because career is really at least 8 hours of your day, but more than that. A good portion, a very useful portion of my day goes into this. Very useful portion of my life goes into that. So is this the right way to look into it? Can I look at it in a different way? And the way I look at it, is it being to my benefit or to my loss? Because as I'm looking at it in the sense that, oh, if I become successful, then it's going to make me a valuable, praiseworthy person, then I am putting such a burden on my shoulder, and it crushes me. The reason that I looked at it in the wrong way is becoming my own like loss. It could have been something that I had benefited from, but right now it's becoming more like a crushing, grinding machinery for me. Each of the unsuccessful events becomes ego crushing, and even the successes brings further worries about whether I will be able to keep up with it and whatnot. Or if I do not publish my next paper as good, what will people think about me? Oh, it looks like he's slowing down. Like, these deviations of how I look at my career is becoming, because I thought that source of value was my title, it becomes a crush or a loss for me. But if I were to look at it from a different lens, how would you look at your career in a good lens? Try to make it practical. I know theoretically it sounds nice, but how can you find guidance in your career? How can I choose to do so in there? If I take it as, and as Brother Bikan was exemplifying in the past weeks for how to take the kids, for instance, because his example for kids were, this was a good example, so let me just remind this, like kids fighting with each other. And if I take it as, oh, just two kids and just making noise, annoying me, and how dare she mistreats her sister like this and whatnot. So it just becomes a burden on me. Just beat her. So it becomes an annoyance for me. It becomes like, oh, why those bad things are happening and whatnot. But if I were to take it as I am being given in this environment, I'm watching this scene of the movie, what does the maker of the scene tell me with this? Or a child is being jealous of another child. So jealousy, I am being taught of jealousy in this scene. Now I should also compare myself. Why would I be jealous of something? What are the things that I take granted for? Like this little child is taking things for granted, so certain love, and being jealous. What are the things that I'm taking for granted? Like trying to read into it, then this scene becomes a meaningful message from my maker, my creator, and can become a source of guidance for me. Likewise, with my career, why am I created in this sort of an environment? What am I supposed to get out of this? Is it the self-value? Or what value am I talking about? Like, what makes me valuable in the first place? If I keep questioning like this and have a different lens towards my career, it's not for making me valuable because I'm not inherently valuable anyways. Then why? Why do I do career then? Why do I make science or do research? This now opens up a new set of questions for me. Then I can ask, what is the guidance in doing this research? I do know how it is deviated because all my friends are doing this research and saying that it happens by itself. But how do I make it so that I'm going to start seeing my creator is acting in here within a certain order and showing me that he is the orderer. So then it becomes guidance. Comments? Yeah.
Going back to our definitions of Qur'an, and here we study how Qur'an is a true source of wisdom. So it helps to compare. So when it comes to the alternative of what we have in our society, as you mentioned, something happens and you start reading it in the name of others. Like I have a burden, something goes bad in my life. And my explanation is somebody did something and then this happened. Another one did another thing and then that happened. So it's all about other people. When there's a mistake, it's usually somebody else to blame. Like it sounds funny, but this is how our society is. Like even like when you go to psychologists, for instance, not all of them, but the mainstream is to teach you how you are great, perfect, and how you need to get rid of all these that influence in your life to open up a space for you to flourish. And as an alternative here, I apologize, I was I should have done it before discussion, but structure was so interesting. I couldn't help. So when it comes to the guidance, so words that use many header and then yahtadi, they are both like active verbs, right? They are not passive. Like although the translation and the meaning is to be guided, they are active verbs. But because of their forms, the meaning is passive. So whoever is guided or has been guided, it is guided for their soul. Okay? But so I'm not an expert in grammar, that's for sure. But it's almost telling us that it is still you, as you nicely mentioned, it is still you choosing. Like there's an active part for you there, which is choosing. But when it comes to guidance itself, it is passive. It is to be guided, not guiding yourself or getting guidance. You choose to be guided, and it comes to you. When it goes with the dalla, though, the verb is active, and the meaning is also active. It's all yours, right? Going astray. So this is very different than what society tells us. When something happens in your life, your only role there is choosing, being open for this goodness, not preventing it, maybe. And it comes to you. When something bad happens, and not in the sense that, a car accident happens and so on, but you feel that you're going astray, like your life is not on the track. When this happens, you should look at yourself. It's your choices and your state and your actions. The following is also very interesting. Again, the translation is no soul will bear another's burden. So in the original, instead of no soul, it's actually like a wazira. The one who bears burden, so that's how you are defined. You are a bearer of the burden, but you are not bearing any burden other than yours. That's the long but the more exact translation. Oh, bearer of the burden, like this is your state, bearer of the burden. You are bearing the burden of yourself, not no one else. Again, like defining the human in such an interesting way as comparison to what society teaches us, that your state is for owning nothing. You are impotent, you are weak, and all you can do is bear a burden. That's your the default state. But the only burden you are carrying, it's your burden, not someone else. So stop blaming everyone else and look at yourself. It also goes with, I don't know, I'm not sure if you can apply ukhra to the creator as well. Meaning the source of this burden don't blame your creator. You are carrying your own burden. Similar to how we studied the ayah which has the word Abu Lahab. I intentionally say it has the word Abu Lahab, like not saying that it is about Abu Lahab. Yeah. They were carrying their own wood. I don't know what it is, but the wood to the fire. So the same way, the burden that you have, the dalal going astray in your life that you have, it is your burden that you choose to have. So this ayah is telling us that you have to relocate yourself. You have to look at yourself, your intentions, your choices, and correct them. Do not try to correct other things. Correct your own intentions, choices.
Good. Jazakallah khair. So now that we are here, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. So what burden, and Brother Birkan said we blame others about things for our burdens, but what else do we do? Now that this is a fundamental teaching of Islam, what does this teach me about Islam? In that I'm not going to blame others. In what sense? Some practical examples. Let's exemplify these with practicalities. Yeah, like for if somebody does something wrong, okay, but others shouldn't be blamed for that wrong either. Like nobody should bear their wrong or their burden.
There's the one who kills, so like you wrong the soul, and like that's gonna be a different situation versus like the one that ultimately took that person and decided like this is the end is actually this maker. So like even though you feel that somebody wronged, I don't know, somebody upset me, somebody hit me, whatever. There's the action of the hitting that happened, and so that person is gonna have their own burden that they're gonna have to hold with the fact that they hit them. And then I have to burden the fact that there's the action and the choices that were made, but then the choices went through. So like, what was I supposed to learn from that reaction? That is kind of how you explain it, which makes sense to me. If I remember the killing scene, because I thought it was pretty clear to see that these two, I can look at it from what is my lesson, but then I can't jump and be like, well, why did that happen to me? Why did it happen to that person? Because I was
So this is a very, very fine reading. So let's put it into multiple layers. So for instance, if Brother Birkan wrongs me, shall I, for right or wrong reasons. So can I harbor weird feelings towards his children? Very simple example. Because no, right? How about we shouldn't, right? Somebody killed your father, but the killer's son, you wouldn't be blaming killer's son. Still, you are going to be in good terms. It's a little tough, but this is what it should be like, because like my friend's friend is my friend, and then my enemy's friend is my enemy, is what we say. But let's say somebody killed the father, but the killer's son, yes, they are friends because he is father and son, yet this person is going to be my enemy or my friend. So I shouldn't be bearing, like the son didn't kill my father, so he's not going to take this burden. So that's one part. That's an easy case, right? Or we can extrapolate it. let's say, people from New York. I have seen a number of people from New York, and they are rude. And another person comes from New York. Can I blame them being rude? Can I have this prejudice against them? I shouldn't. Nice. How about, let's say, Sister Zareen is a very nice, kind person, but she has some annoying aspect, let's say. And she is annoying you so much with this annoying aspect, and you're just going crazy with her, and you cannot bear with her. Is this a just act? Because there are 25 different nice aspects about her, but there's one aspect, but you cannot bear with her because of this one aspect, putting the blame of this aspect over the other 24 aspects. Another way to look at it. Yes, now it's getting tougher. So why do I like this person or not like this person? There are different aspects for people. So am I able to distinguish that, okay, this aspect is not good, but the other aspects are fine or good or even nice? So am I putting the blame of even, like if you like someone, or you like their cooking, you like their wearing, their clothing and everything. But if you start disliking the guy and then you say, oh, his jokes are also bad, his foods do not taste nice. Like everything about that person becomes bad after a certain point, to the extent that I harbor this feeling towards this person. This also applies there. Now let's take it one step further, which now I will bring it to what you were saying. A person did a bad event happened to me, and this person has been a part of it. Now, who did this bad act? This person, now that I am engaging with the event itself, something bad is there with this event, which is a person had an ill will towards me. That is really the choice part of it, which was at the beginning. So somebody had this deviated ill will towards me as a choice. But then what happened in my life? A death or a calamity or something bad happened. And that's why I start seeing this event as a horrible bad event. Is this a just act? Just that somebody initially had intended ill towards me at the beginning, does it make the event itself bad? Number one question. Number two question, can I be, how shall I feel towards this person who wronged me? Now, if you open it up there, even in this case, this is even a tougher case. So in this case, I can see that first, yes, there is something that is against my comfort. This is why I dislike the event. But this event is, the guy only chose to wrong me, but the creation is happening because of my creator. So there is, what does my creator will by this event becomes the actual question I should be asking. So the burden of this person's ill will shouldn't taint the message I'm going to take from them, because the message is clean. The person's intention was bad. Now, if I look at, now that part of the message get cleaned, that event is not dirty anymore. How about this person's ill will? Like, shall I be hating the person, coming back to the beginning? Or is it that this person is just normally, let's say, most of the time, he's a good character of a person. Maybe he's a believer. But by believer, I don't mean just by identity, but he thoroughly is convinced about the creator. Yet, at a moment of neglect, he wronged himself and made a wrong choice. So, shall I be pitying this person for making this poor choice? Or shall I be judging the entirety of that human being for this single choice? If I read it as such, then the picture totally changes. Like the scale of another's burden can be extended from individuals, from the aspect of an individual, or across the nations, or such and such nation, they're all bad, sort of things. So certain people from a nation making a mistake, does it justify to hate the entire nation? So this could be taken then as another established rule of Islam. Yeah.
This also reminded me, again, in our society, there's this idea of I'm a victim of something. I'm a victim of my past. Like I'm carrying the burden of my past. I'm carrying the burden of my family. Or I'm carrying the burden of my society, children, my husband, my wife. I'm a victim of someone, victim of something, my genes. I'm a victim of my genes. And the ayah is telling me that, no, whatever you are experiencing, it's your experience and it's not, your genes had some deficits and you carry them. They carry the burden of that. You're not victim of it. So the ayah, nobody bears another's burden. You can also read it as no one is a victim of someone else.
But I feel like that's different. Like the genetic thing didn't make sense to me in that sense. Because you're not blaming someone else, you're just blaming the trait you were provided. So like if somebody's like maybe but like if you're like I always get angry so fast, like why did God give me this? Are you saying then like God didn't give you this, you just didn't supplicate enough to get rid of your pain? Is that like maybe a similar concept? Or maybe a child is raised in a difficult circumstance and then they blame that circumstance and you're like, no, that was not, you could have handled all of that, and this is just, to me, like that's hard to grapple with because and I'm saying this is like an adult, you didn't, it happened, you're a complete adult now, but you're like, yeah, that's not a good burden that I liked. Because I wonder, that being said, like I guess my thought process is like the burden that you think you can handle versus the burden that you're actually provided. Because right, like I have to believe that I also stop burden versus like not feeling like handle the burden.
If we start with a simple example, not anger and so on. Let's say you are saying that I'm saying that I'm so unhappy because I don't have enough hair. Like this suffering I have is because of my, that I'm losing hair. So would you say that, oh yeah, that's true, like you are losing hair? It doesn't explain my suffering. Yes, I have that amount of hair, but the one who chooses to suffer, it's me. Because it goes with, I need that many hair to be handsome. And I need to be handsome to be, happy. Or I need to be handsome to be successful, and so on and so forth. All these chain, right, comes as a bag, and I'm suffering because of these choices. Not because I have less hair than somebody else. So the same way, you can take any trait you have, or genetic condition, doesn't matter. It gives you an environment, a context, and you are responsible within that context, for sure. Like nobody can ask me why I don't, make my hair longer and dance it in the the air, right? Nobody will blame me for it. But there's a context given to me, and I have to make the right choices within this context. Exactly.
So, and I was quickly checking actually this verse, this portion of the verse, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى, repeats more than 5 times in Quran. So it looks like it's a very central thing, which we tend to either blame the victim for my wrongs, blame others, or for the blame of someone, I blame further other people. And this is being used for, in one sense, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى, to cleanse myself in any case. Because I do wrong, but I would like to cleanse myself from this wrong by putting the blame on others. And in the previous part of the verse, since it's saying that you wronged yourself, why are you just putting the blame on others? وَمَنْ ضَلَّ فَإِنَّمَا يَضِلُّ عَلَيْهَا. So your wronging is against you. It's not somebody else's wrong is against you. Well,
I'm sure some, sorry for the I'm sure some interprets this ayah as it's talking about the original sin in Christianity. And saying that the ayah clarifies that no, you don't carry the burden of Adam because of his bad choices. That's the theological foundation in Christianity. That's true, but it's just a stereotypical example of our understanding today as well. So there is no difference between a Christian saying that I'm carrying the burden or sin of the Adam, the original sin in my life, and saying that I'm carrying the burden or the sin of my parents. They were not careful enough, and they got me such a genetic condition.
So then can we also say that sometimes I feel like there's another part of the story then. Do I feel obliged to get under certain burdens, such as somebody did wrong in the past, but let's say I call it my nation, my people. But I feel like, let's say, I'm from Turkey, and there had been certain events in the Turkish history. And now, am I going to defend the wrongs of the past because I am coming from the same family? Do I have to feel like I have to defend it? Or do I have to, can I distance myself from that too? Because this is another way that things are happening. Let's say, if I were to see somebody from Armenia or from Greece. So for Turkey, historically we had beef with both. And then for the Armenian will blame me saying that, oh, you killed us. And when I see a Greek, I will blame them saying that, oh, you killed us or your ancestors killed us. Like I have this tendency to do so. I guess in both cases, do I have to defend if there's a wrongdoing? Do I carry this burden, or shall I have the freedom to say that wrong is wrong? It's not my wrong. In the past, the wrong might have been done, my fathers, my ancestors, and whatnot, or even my mistake from yesterday. Sometimes it's being so hard to admit that I was wrong, but I should be able to leave it behind and say that I was wrong. And today, I was born with a new La ilaha illallah today. It was a new creation today. And I'm distancing myself from my mistake in yesterday. How about this last part? وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. We would never punish a people until we have sent a messenger.
the people that live in the middle of nowhere, Africa, and never, this is a question that comes up
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah.
and gets asked a lot. The answer, but even if the example Bikan gave a little bit earlier is like, if the context in which I was brought in didn't have the right messages or whatever I needed to be able to answer that question, then obviously that means I couldn't quote unquote like burden that. So there was no way for me to answer that. But if I was provided,
So what sort of punishment is this verse talking about? And what is guidance in this verse? When the Creator says, we will never punish those to whom we didn't send messenger. How can I benefit from this?
unless like you were given the opportunity, like it's very righteous, like
So can I bear witness to this? Like two questions. Can I bear witness to this? And second question is, how does this help me?
Because I guess that's the first thing that comes to mind, like, am I part of this group that has been sent a messenger? And if so, where is that messenger in my life? Or am I like part of this group that is like ignoring or just pushing down this message? And I guess that might manifest sometimes like some of the feelings I feel. Can I do something like do something that might cause or might result in like pain or something to myself?
So about this, we were having a conversation with a student, like a non-Muslim student, and like talking about life, purpose of life, how things are happening and whatnot. And then like a college student, 24/7 working for earning more, getting a good degree, become successful, get rich, make their parents proud, this and that, like the standard student. And he was a successful student. Two of them. Actually, they are one of the best two of my students. So we had this conversation and I said, for what? Where are we going? What's the point? Like, okay, you put all these efforts, but what is it that you're aiming to gain out of this? You're just putting burden on yourself. And you're living a life chasing some temporary joys in life. It's nothing but you're harming yourself. This way of life, this is a herd mentality. You're doing like this because you're told to do like this. Without questioning, you keep doing this. And everything you do is simply digging your grave deeper because moments are passing and joys are momentary. You enjoy them for a second, but separation from joy stays with you. It's a lasting pain. Student's response was interesting. He said, but nobody thinks about this. You're right. It's painful, but nobody thinks about this. Ignorance is bliss, is what the student said. This reminded me of this verse. If the messenger comes and makes you realize how horrible of a condition you are in, once messenger makes you see, it is hard not to see. And if you insist rejecting the message, then you will really live. There are two options now. There's no option of going back to your ignorance because you know that all your efforts are futile. It was a pointless rat race you were in. Either you will follow the messenger, then you will ask, what is that you are offering me as a solution? Or you will be living in pain, in punishment, because you rejected the messenger. There's no third option of going back to your oblivion. And in the larger scale, this verse is understood as, because Quran talks about many nations who rejected their messengers and got punished. But if I read it for myself, what does this mean? The messenger comes and I reject the messenger, then I can really bear witness saying that, yes, indeed, I am in this pain because I knew better, and now I am knowingly rejecting the better. Because otherwise, we really live within the norms of our society. If everybody is living in this way, we don't see as much of a pain. Like, for instance, if nobody had bike, everybody was walking in a society, and this is the norm of transportation, would I know that, oh, it's too hard, our life is going so hard? If somebody were to find a bike and start riding the bike, then I would say, oh, life is so hard for me. Look at this guy, how comfortable of a life he's living. It's the same life I'm living, but I didn't notice that it was a punishment or it was hard. So messenger, as the guidance comes in, then the darkness becomes darkness. Without guidance, I wouldn't be noticing darkness as much. At this moment, one can argue, though, are we talking about the messenger, human messenger only? Because Creator talks about different types of messengers too. Like he talks about in Quran, it's mentioned that from angels, messengers come as well. Sometimes, because the creation is full of messengers too. So to the extent that I ignore them, I will feel pain. Like old age is a messenger as well. This is why university students, since the old age messenger didn't come to them yet, ignorance is bliss for them. But once they hit the age 30, 40, once the messenger of old age comes, then they're not able to stick with ignorance is bliss anymore either. So to the extent that messengers keep coming and I reject them, then the punishment comes. Yeah.
It sounds as if you're saying that it is better not to get them.
If possible.
So I think the impossibility there is not that messengers are always there and shouting at you. And if you can find a way to just block your ear, that would be better. But the impossibility is not having pain or the burden because of your choices. Like even if you try to be ignorant, even if you say that, no, I'm not thinking about that, you will always have the burden. Like you will try to cover it. You will try to get drunken by working, having fun parties, but the burden will be always there. What you are ignoring, actually, not the pain, but the choices that leads to that pain. And the messenger comes and tells you about your choices that leads to that pain. Otherwise, like if I don't, at least in my life, and when I look at the people, what I see, the pain is not optional. It's not that, well, I'm ignorant and I'm not having the pain. Yeah, like tell me when you are alone at home, what you do then.
So and the part that I'm trying to see there is, because again, at two levels, the easier part is to start from if the messenger doesn't come, because generally the question is, as mentioned, like that when the topic is messenger, different questions happen. Like why I don't know, Mayans. Quran doesn't talk about the messenger sent to Mayans. It's always talking about messengers comes to Middle East region and whatnot. So what happened to them? Like this sort of a question is there. So how do I relate to this at that level? So it must be that when the messenger comes, punishment is going to come. If the messenger is not there, punishment is not going to be there. And by this punishment, if I understand annihilation of a nation, then it becomes exaggerated. How about the punishment of darkness, of misguidance? Because it's a pain, and it is there. Because it becomes bothersome to me to say that the Creator created certain people and didn't send them a messenger, and they were living the pain of the darkness there. Like, there is mercy in here, becomes a question. Then, now that the question is getting hard, I need to put myself into the question, because my empathy towards Mayans or, I don't know, Arctic people and whatnot doesn't help any further. How does it happen when it comes to me versus the messenger? This is now how I start making sense of it. Then I see that as the messenger comes, I make sense of what is happening with my pain. Otherwise, I don't name it as such, or I do not realize it. At the guidance, misguidance level, when it comes to a human messenger. But if I take it one step closer to old age as a messenger, then I say certain things, like for these kids, for example, for these kids, there is no pain yet in this sense. They are just happily living their lives
Until you don't give them chocolate.
until some message comes to them. So I think this is how I was seeing the explanation.
So I think another way to do that, come closer to my mind, is every time you feel the azab, the pain of the separation, when we dig into the word azab, every time you feel the pain of separation, there is always a message that would explain you what is going on there. Rather than you were living your life happily ever, and then we chose to send you a messenger, and from that moment you start having pain. Otherwise, like if we take it as with a historical, like a chronological order, messenger comes and you start having punishment because you didn't listen to the message. It sounds like, don't send me a messenger. I'm happy with my animal-like life, if it is possible.
Yeah.
And the ayah is saying that, and especially the previous ayah, the waziratun part. You are a bearer of burden. That's what you are. Like there is no state of yours you can call as the neutral.
So to explain, give an explicit example for burden so that we are on the same page.
Every time, like to your student friend, for instance, no matter what he tries to do, not thinking about the future and so on, he will always have this pain of what will happen to me when I graduate? What will happen to me if I don't pass the exam? Or what will happen to my family? He will always have these doubts, questions, or pain. It's always a pain of separation. Right? He will always have this, no matter how ignorant he tries to be. And the ayah is telling that, yes, you have this azab, you have this pain, and there's always a messenger for you to explain you what this pain is. Because there is no pain unless we already sent down a messenger. If you are experiencing a pain, can be sure that there's a messenger to explain to you.
Okay. Okay, I was not reading it this way, but so what I'm understanding is pain is there, messenger comes to fix it, is how you're reading it.
Yeah, depending on your choices. Like if you choose to be guided, you will receive guidance. If you choose to be go astray, you will go astray.
So that isn't it being, I mean, I understand then what you're saying, but isn't it different than what how the verse is formulating the sentence at least?
Which part?
We
Yeah,
would never, yeah.
Like it says, we haven't been punished up until
sending the message.
Yeah, up until we sent down the messenger.
Yeah.
You can read it as we are like in your current state, you find us as a punisher. That means we sent down a messenger.
Okay.
But it always starts with you finding yourself in a state of pain, burden.
So then let's say the other way around, because it looks like, yes, with the messenger coming and me not paying attention to the message, it becomes a pain.
It can be that way, yes. Or it could be read as, again, I'm having this pain because of my choices. It could be not listening a message as well.
Okay.
But like when you say it, it sounds as if the coming of the messenger is the cause of the pain.
So actually it is. In what sense? Compared to animals. Animals are not given this consciousness. Hence, they are not worried about those pains that I have. Like animal doesn't have the message of past or future. Animal just lives the moment. This is why animal doesn't have any pain. So really it's a doom, if you like, for human to have the consciousness, the message of past and the future. If I do not pay attention to the message though, yes, human is doomed. It's a doomed animal actually, if I take it as such, because like, I don't want consciousness. I want to get drunk is how we are trying to solve the issue, but this is not being a human anymore. Because a proper human being would say that, yes, if I pretend to be like an animal, I am doomed. But since messengers are every time coming to me, then my only way to salvation or happiness is heeding to the message. Otherwise, I'm doomed to be in sadness and pain.
Messengers, what I understand from the ayah, messengers are always, because you always find yourself in peace.
From reverse reading, agreed. Like if I'm going to then read this as, how does this provide a guidance to me? Then I would say, wherever I find pain in my life, then I should go and see, oh, there must have been a messenger, which I heard this call of the messenger, and I ignored the messenger. So go and double check, why did I ignore the messenger? Because it's a conscious choice. This ignoring this messenger is a conscious choice, but it might be that I just dismissed it immediately because, like, how dare you're coming with this message, sort of an attitude. Like, maybe I didn't even give it a second thought. But yes, if this then is to be taken as a guidance, I should go and check for all my pains or all the punishments that I go through. There would have been a messenger, or even the event itself was a messenger, but I dismissed it as, oh, just an accident. Or, oh, this guy mistreated me. How dare he does this, she does this. But I could have read it as a messenger from my creator.
Even, I believe we can even take this hatta one step further. Within every azab, within every pain, there is always a message.
Yeah, like toothache.
Yes. Without the message, we never sent down the pain. We never caused pain.
Without the message, we never, for human, yes.
Yeah.
For human, because you are made in a way to learn and appreciate your creator. This is why you are made. And as long as you deny the messenger, you're bound to be in pain.
So going back to your student again, he cannot trick himself.
Mhm.
He cannot cheat, just being ignorant. Like you can articulate this sentence, but you cannot be ignorant to your reality. The same goes with the Mayans or Africans.
Mhm.
And in this hypothetical scenario, if this African boy having some burden, having some pain, there must be a message within this pain and around that pain for sure. The ayah guarantees that.
So then just to distinguish two types of messengers in there, because yes, there's this pain and old age is a messenger, agreed, and humans should make something out of it. Yet there is a messenger with a revelation. When these two happens, then what is the distinction there? Yes, like what if, because in today's society, if somebody hears about Islam, to what extent do people hear Islam in today's society? Is another question that we need to think about. Like how much you heard about Islam, how much your atheist friend heard about Islam. Did they really receive messenger as a human messenger? Because now that we are studying human messenger on Friday discussions, because we cannot say, well, but they had the headache. Well, they had this. These are all messengers. Yes, they were, but they were not human messengers or human revelation. So what is this element of human messenger coming to the picture also should make a difference. And in this sense, I think my student's comment makes sense. If I am living in a society where the norm is trying to live like an animal, yes, human nature hates this to a certain extent, but once the light of guidance shines on it, then the pain is going to be multiple folded. Otherwise, I think there exists a mercy of the Creator to those who didn't receive revelation as clear, or the revelation they received is Islamist terrorism, for example, then they would feel nice or good saying that, oh, thank God, I'm not Muslim. I'm not a terrorist. So they wouldn't feel pain for this, actually. They will feel the mercy and lack of pain for that as well, which is another mercy of the Creator in them.
Yeah, like within this example, yes. But this guy spending his entire life. That's how I felt when I was reading some article from what is the guy who invented the twin mission? Okay, he's a genius, right? He writes an article in which he gives an example about the Muslims. I read the article itself. And the example goes like, the Muslims believe the women don't have soul. Okay? That's what he taught. That somebody told him that Muslims believe that. So yeah, probably like just being ignorant in that moment, there might be a rahmah, mercy, is not having the pain. But I'm sure that otherwise it's kind of no wisdom in the creation. For such a person, not taking what you are writing or what you're thinking as serious as building a stupid machine, just must be given him this pain. Like you have bestowed with this mind, with this creativity, everything, and the amount of effort you put in checking what it is, whether it is true or not, what it means, is less than the amount of effort you put, what is it, the sugar you put in your tea and mix it. you must be have some pay in that regard.
Agreed. The other side of the story is the more you learn, the more you become responsible, which is also a fact. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة